So as you listen to this session, you'll see us discuss theory, discuss perspectives, but then go into a practice that both Minta and I found really immediately impactful on our physical state, our psychological state, which is quite a lot to say. We do these podcasts often in busy days, at the top or bottom of the day. So I think it's a fascinating look at the intersection and the interplay of those different perspectives and his path method. I'm really intrigued to learn more after our experience today.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's just really an empowering way to work. And I think it's a way of working that anyone can kind of integrate into their therapeutic sort of practices, or just simply doing, once you learn about it, you can probably simply do it at home on your own. So this is something I think everyone should listen to and will learn something from.
It's a bit of a practical session as well as an intellectual one. Hope you enjoy it.
Welcome.
Raoul, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. If I could first of all just ask you to introduce yourself to our audience and just give us a little bit of flavour of who you are, what you do, and why we're talking today.
Okay, so I am Raoul Goldberg. I'm an integrative medical doctor for probably the best part of 50 years. I am an PhD psychology psychotherapist. I run this medical center together with Dana, and I have been an author of several books. Several other books are in the pipeline. I am the founder of this path method, teacher and facilitator, and I run workshops here and internationally. And we have a very beautiful center here where we are trying to connect the medicine and the psychology and the ecology and the community into one incredible community experience. I'm a lover of nature, make medicines. I love art and sculpturing. I'm a beekeeper. Yes, I love life. And I think my greatest passion is the path method and to bring this wonderful modality into a larger world audience. That's my real passion.
So let's start there then. So for our audience and for us, if you could give us, I think, just to kind of contextualize that a little bit. At Masters events, we work in both spheres. We work with in integrative medicine. We partner with integrative medicine for mental health. So we see lots of the research, lots of the fundamentals about, biochemical, lifestyle, behavioral, psychosocial, spiritual, all of the impact on and how that relates to mental health. And then we work obviously in the trauma space with the event that we host in Oxford. And there's a real opportunity we see to kind of bridge these two. There's great knowledge in the integrative space, there's brilliant knowledge in the trauma space, and part of what we see our role is kind of connecting those dots and bringing some of that together. But I'm really keen to understand at the heart of path method. What's it? Talk to us about that.
Wow, such a big subject. I was on a quest for whole person healing right from the beginning of my medical career. So I studied medicine in mainstream university in Johannesburg, and it just evolved. I had to develop further my whole understanding of the human being. And so I had to go to Europe. Europe is a place where you can get a far more holistic approach to healing. And I studied 7 years in different clinics there. And I was really fascinated by Rudolf Steiner's work. And so I spent 7 years in these clinics absorbing the incredible wisdom coming from all kinds of sources: the farming, the medicinal, the educational, the medical, the artistic, the scientific. So it was a whole education, new education for me. And this, I was also blessed to have Rudolf Steiner's pupils still alive, who downloaded a lot of the information and the wisdom. Then I came back to South Africa some 40 years ago to start my medical practice. And I was further searching in functional medicine, did a degree in homeopathy, functional medicine, acupuncture, nutritional science. It wasn't enough. There was something missing. And what it was an understanding and an insight into the psyche and the spiritual dimensions of the human being. And what came to me as epiphanies through my medical training was that most chronic illnesses, if not all chronic illnesses, have a psychosocial spiritual basis. And unless we understand the connection between the body, the psyche, and the spirit, we're not going to be able to heal the illnesses of our time, which make up 80% the chronic illnesses of our time. And I was especially interested in cancer because that was a real world disease that I had to really understand. And so I realized, in fact, that the problems of the world and the human problems had to do with the fact that we have lost our connection to our wholeness and lost our connection to the whole world, and that the real solution to the problem was to bring this back again. And this meant bringing medicine and psychology back to where they belong. Body, mind, medicine had to come together, and we had to connect ecology and sociology and spirituality all together to bring this wholeness back again. And so this was the starting point for my quest to find a way, a medical psychological way, to bring all this together. Then I had the good fortune to be trained a 3-year period in a psychotherapeutic methodology that really gave me the platform for the work that I was going to do. It was called psychophonetics. And out of this whole self-world picture, I started researching with thousands of patients using this modality to bridge the gap and to try and see, can I find a method that is fairly easy to teach my clients and my patients, that they would be able to start their own healing journey. And so this started the whole development of the PATH method, because I started then interacting with many doctors, got a teaching post in Esselen. We were teaching, Dana and myself, over 5-6 years. Then I connected with PhD in California. Then I started to develop the PATH method in an academic format, did some research there. And so eventually it evolved into this modality that we've called the PATH method, which is a universal transformational skill that anyone can use, no matter what their religious background or cultural background, that has 3 essential elements in it that really make it quite special, I think. The one is it is based on a whole view, a perspective of the human being. Because, guys, if we don't have an idea of what the whole human being is, how can we make proper diagnoses? How can we make deep, truthful diagnoses? And secondly, if we don't have a whole picture and know the connection of the whole being to the world, how can we find the right solutions? And so the intuitive solutions and the deep diagnosis depends on the whole perspective. That's the first thing. Then we have to have a method that can actually access the psyche quickly, rapidly, effectively, powerfully, and find the way in which the greater self, the higher self, can help the lower self. This is one of the basic premises of the PATH method, that we help every patient to recognize their great power. So there's empowerment there in order that they have the courage and the strength and the ability to dive deeply into their traumatized and hurt, wounded self. That's the second pillar, a transformational method. And the third, that was absolutely essential, was a sustainable path of transformation, growth, and healing. Because I recognized that the patterns of humanity, the materialistic and the ego-centered patterns that we all have by our legacy and our ingrained education and compliance and conditioning, we've become very, very fixed. So we have to have a method that can break down these hardened set patterns. And that's what the PATH method has evolved, a method in which over a period of at least 28 days, you're working on your old pattern. So we built that into the modality. So I'm talking a lot. Maybe you want to get me to...
I have a question.
Yes.
How do you help people get in touch with what you call their higher self?
Well, I would like to show you how I would do that. If you want to go through an experience yourself, everyone has an awareness of their talents, their strengths, their good qualities, things that they're proud of. We connect patients with that. We connect the client with some aspect of their best self, the best version of everyone has it. Everyone has it. And if you can just open yourself to that possibility. But the first thing we use, and I'm going to show you how this works shortly, is intentional setting. The power of the wish, we call it really the wish. Every patient is asked to actually find within themselves the very precise wish that would transform their problem. And the moment you do that, for example, I wish to be full of confidence so that I can empower myself in my relationship.
So my wish was, though, I was going to say, I wish there was like 48 hours in a day. I don't think you can give me that, can you? That was kind of...
Would you like me to take you through a short process here?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Or I can start the process by actually demonstrating on myself so you see how it works.
No, I think I'm really curious and intrigued, because so often we talk about operating from the higher self, but the practicalities of how, I think that for me and for our listeners is the principles there. I'm fully bought into the opportunity that being able to kind of be in that position of higher self, with the opportunity that represents for so much, including the healing that we need, individually, societally and systemically. So I'm really, really open to us working with you as opposed to you demonstrating it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
First thing is, I'm hearing you have a strong wish, you have a strong will to want to find this out, how to get to the higher self. That's the starting point. Someone has to have that intention, right? So you've got it. And I'm going to ask you to actually make a wish, formulate it. What is it that you wish to do? Give it an articulated form. You get what I'm saying? You're wanting to find your higher self.
Do you want to articulate yours, Emma? Because I honestly, the only thing I can think right now is more time in the day.
Okay, for me, it is to be consistently well, to be regulated so I can regulate others, whether that's for me as a parent, for me as a partner, for me as a business partner, and for me as someone on a mission to help be part of the healing of humanity. I know that if I show up regulated well, I worry a lot about, for me, health anxieties, by the pace that I'm running at constantly, the expectations I have on myself. But I do have this intrinsic wisdom that I am well, and I take, so for me to hold on to that. I think when you talked about the higher self, is the thing that you said actually that really helped me access this is there are things that that you do well, and there are times that you feel it, and I get that feeling of higher self, and I can get that in moments when I'm parenting much, and I tapped into that feeling to know what is it that I'm wishing for. It's that feeling of regulation and wellness and health to be able to continue to do the things that I find really fulfilling and purposeful. That's what I'm wishing for.
Okay, so you've already raised your awareness into a thinking mode where you are actually holding that intention. Okay, and I want you to hold that, Emma. Do you have anything specific you would like, Amita?
No, right now I would like to, I guess. Oh, no, I'm really sorry. I'm actually, other than, as I keep saying, other than finding more time in the day, I'm actually doing really well emotionally.
Well, if you would find the strength to use your time in a very, let's say, economic and qualitative way, would that give you the feeling of being more empowered that you have?
I think if I didn't feel the need to, yes, exactly. If I felt that, if I was empowered to use my time if I didn't feel like everything was so urgent, and I think everything needed to be so, and I think the urgency fulfills a need in myself, a need for kind of adrenaline, for stress, so I think that I have a need for that, and that's why I have a need for the urgency and the pace that I'm going. If I could learn, and I don't really want to, because I'm already feeling resistance about this, I don't want to be more calm, but if I could be happy being calmer, then maybe that would be better. But I don't want to really.
But you could have both. You could have calmness when you wanted it, and you could have action when you needed it. Okay. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So let's go for you wishing to be empowered in order that you can find your calmness when you need it, but also your action, because that's empowerment. Okay? Can we do that? Yeah. All right. So we've got our wish. And now I want you to imagine the kind of person that you just wished for. Imagine doing that, being on the one hand calm and action driven, on the other hand regulated. And we can even, if we've got time, we can write your script, as it were. Create the exact role that this person is going to have to play. But for now, just imagine, picture it, try and get a picture of this person in your mind's eye. And now I want you to, and this is a process that one learns, to drop it down into your heart region. In other words, what does this person feel like when she's calm, but also driven or self-regulated? How does it feel inside there? And then you bring it further down into your belly, where you allow your body to get a sensation. This is where the somatic aspect comes in. The body starts, in a way, resonating with the feeling and the picture. And then we take it a further step right into your limbs, as if you were going to embody yourself in this person, as if you were going to play the role of the person that you have created in your mind's eye. And when you get that feeling, okay, I'm going to play the role, drop into it, and try and give a physical expression, a gesture of what it feels like if you're in this position. Calm but activated, regulated. Show with your whole body as if you were miming and playing the role of this person. Take a moment and just drop into an expressive, shaping form. Okay? And this is something one can learn easily to do, learn to use the physical body to express what's going on a soul level. Once you've got that picture, I want you to actually drop it and step away from your seated position. In other words, get out of your chair and actually step aside so that you can observe the picture that you were in just a moment. It's an image, but it's still in your mind's eye. You were in that moment. You could go back to it if you wanted. Now you step away and you look at yourself. Can you get a picture of that person as you're standing outside? Because this is one of the most powerful tools in psychotherapy, that we get our clients to step out of their fixed position and look at themselves objectively. Can you see yourself? Can you see the shape that you've created?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And what do you think of that? Do you like the picture?
Yeah. She looks stronger than I am currently, even though, yeah, she does. She looks stronger than me.
Okay.
Yeah, and mine's just way more capable.
Yeah, capable is what the word is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've just created your resource. You've just created the very person that you need to now develop, grow, sustain. And by just going back to it again and again and again, you are creating the neural circuits. The whole brain neuroscience will support you here, because you are imprinting and programming a very empowered part of yourself into your body. Now, that's why we need to do this over a 28-day period. And I suggest to my clients now, every hour, not just once a day, but every hour, they just drop into that position, wherever they are. I say, put it on your ringer, because you want to train your body and your psyche, your mind, that this is what I want to become. And so you are creating over a month a new personality. This is just remarkably transformational. I can only say, after 1 week of doing this, you are functioning differently.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
And is your centre residential, or is it?
It's outpatients. We don't have inpatient. So we have people coming, and we do retreats, and we do training of practitioners. So we've got Path Method practitioners training, and we're doing online courses available for people to learn how to do this for themselves.
Okay, so it's not, so when it's 28 days, it's not. Is it daily for 28 days with you, or is it?
No, this is for yourself. So
Okay.
the client, I would see a client once a week, and they would in that week be practicing their skill set in the beginning. And we're dealing with deeply traumatized people. Yesterday, for example, I had a patient who was so deeply traumatized from his childhood through molestation, and then he did the molestation back to cousins, and it created a massive community response. Yeah. And he has been living with this buried inside of him, and we had to create, first of all, his empowerment. And guess what? He used to be a singer. He saved his life through singing as a child in his own home. That's what kept him going. And then something happened a year ago. He was not able to sing. People were criticizing, judging him. He stopped singing. He went really downhill again. Came to see me yesterday. We said, we've got to create some power here. Anyway, his wish was, I need to have the courage to empower myself so that I can go and face my trauma. What was the empowerment? He ended up singing for me. He took the courage to sing again after a year. It was the most moving experience because he created his empowerment. That is it. Once you have your empowerment, you can do anything. You can transform any trauma. And that is the answer to trauma. We have to get people to learn to feel strong enough that they can then face their wounds. And you have to face your wounds. I don't believe we must hide from it, but we have to get strong enough to face the beast.
Yeah.
This is what I think the path method can do.
I really appreciated how immediately practical that was, because so often we speak at this kind of intellectual level around these states of being that are favorable for healing, but often accessing that is the challenge. And also it reminded me of what happened to me. I did hypnobirthing. Many of our regular listeners will have heard me say that many times, but I also carried on with hypnosis afterwards because I found that a very helpful tool to allowing kind of the subconscious, which so often gets quietened by all of this kind of thinking, to come forward, and for that the reality to exist over the sort of noise of what's happening in the moment. And there was a point at which we stood up and looked back that I had a frame of reference back to that ability to sort of quieten the stuff that gets in the way of what's that innate wisdom or innate, because we're really tapping into something as opposed to creating something new.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I can only say after working with this method now over 20 years, the ability to step away is one of the most powerful therapeutic tools, and very few people use it. Because what is it? You are actually able to be free of all your baggage when you step out properly. In other words, you can see everything. And when we use imagination and you look at the empty chair and we follow the journey backwards imaginatively, you go right back to your original trauma. And this is where people discover all kinds of things they never remembered. But when you step away, you're in your highest self. Your highest self in the physical body is when you step away. We have to bring that into our therapy. And this is one of the most important tools. Anyone can learn it. So here I've got in my medical consultation room an extra chair. I'll show you it there. And patients come in and they sit opposite me and they tell me their story. And they're talking about their chronic headaches or their migraines or whatever. And I listen, I do my examination, I do my blood draws, I do whatever a medical doctor would do. And then I say, would you like to help me get a little bit deeper into understanding where your problem comes from? And I say, come and sit in that chair. And I want you to look at yourself, the one who's told the story with all the history. I can't tell you what happens. It's just incredible because they're outside of their ego person, their old ego situation, and they're looking at themselves for the first time from the outside. They tear up. They say, my goodness me, I see where this problem is coming from. This is about my relationship or my work or my personality. And then we start the process immediately. I ask them to actually interact with the other one. So we create partnerships. And so we've got the higher self already outside looking on. Do you want to help him? Of course I want to help him. Good. What would you tell him? And so the process begins. And that is a 10-minute, 15-minute process. And I say, right, if this really is of help to you, let's do a proper counseling session, a 1-hour session, as soon as we get an opening. And that is what everyone can do. We can all learn to step away and evaluate our whole life. And that is magical. It really is magical. When you adopt that as a kind of a conscious way of living your life.
Yeah. And that again, just that description of the perspective that you get. And, it's almost like you're stepping out of that into your higher self. That exercise was, and then being able to observe and see, and almost there's an empathy and compassion that you were kind of fostering, not directly, but I definitely felt it. And we both had responses, or how we felt was actually, as I sit here and as I observed me sitting in this space here, I'm way more capable than I think. It allows you to lose some of that loading, that weight, I guess.
Yeah, and I think for me, I saw the possibility of being that person that was calm and motivated and kind of, as you said, activated, which I've always thought they kind of couldn't be the same person. I kind of thought if I was that if I did have that level of calm, I wouldn't be in my highest self. I wouldn't be achieving my highest potential. But I actually, by stepping away and looking at that, I thought actually this person can coexist and be better than I am currently. More capable, more stronger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's the barrier then to, that was a relatively short amount of time for us both to feel the impact and the possibility of the modality or the approach. We meet so many really helpful tools, because it's never one tool, is it? We always need a kit, and because different people respond to different things. But what's the barrier to adoption? I mean, I know that you're now training practitioners, you're creating a protocol for individuals. What's your hope and dreams, and where do you see the path, method extend?
Yes. Well, the barrier is our old perceptions, our old belief systems. The barrier is also that people don't sometimes like to see their self, but I don't see no barrier to empowering people. That's where we start. Empowerment, there's no barrier to, everyone wants to feel stronger. So there's no barrier to that. The barrier is to actually go inside and see the wounding. That's the one thing. The other thing is the materialistic attitude and approach to life. Even our science is very, very fixed on brain chemistry and physiology, and hasn't got a higher perspective of the whole, the soul life. What is the soul? How is it connected to spirit? How does the spirit work into the soul? How does the soul and spirit work into the body? You see, there is a perfect example now. When you step away, you're in a different body. Your spirit is now, and higher self is commanding the body. We can pick this up in neuroscience. It's a different body. That means, what's the barrier to that? The barrier is simply being courageous enough to want to change. And I think that's the biggest problem. Anyone who wants to change can grow into this approach. And it needs to have a perspective. Many therapies, unfortunately, don't. They don't have a wide world view. And many therapies don't have a sustainable path to overcome the old patterns. That's the thing. And the third thing is we need a method that is quickly transformative, that people can see immediately, whoa, this changes my whole feeling and my perspective, and I've got opportunity and potential for future growth.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, because I think, and you said the barrier to change is the person not wanting to change. I think a lot with traumatized individuals, they have obviously the behaviors that are kind of maladaptive behaviors have kept them safe for so long, So for me, it's like living in high stress, for example, has kept me feeling generally regulated. It's probably not good from a physiological perspective. It's probably not good from maybe people in my external who kind of have to live with me in a state of quite high stress constantly. But for me, I feel safest in that. But to change, to come out of that and start to act from a place of more calm, that feels scary. So it's like that. So you have to kind of enable your patients or your clients to feel safe enough to change.
Well, that's why empowerment is the beginning. Wish, empowerment, and being able to step away and see the great potential. So I think this gets past that. I think there's also, the more people, let's say, who are trained in this field can teach this method, the more people will just gravitate. It's a question of, to me, a certain, what is the word? When you have a certain percentage of people who become more conscious, it just is a mass perspective. But this is what I think has to happen. We have to find a way to create online courses, to create presence, to create awareness of this kind of modality in places like you've created. You have an incredible, I think, platform for distributing this knowledge. And I'm so impressed that you're open to new innovations like this and that you're willing to help to promote that. So I think, yeah, where is it going? This is my intention to try and move the work into a greater audience.
Yeah, and I think it's all independent, as you were just describing there. The path, the kind of the 28-day piece plays into the neuroplasticity. So it's yeah, it all there's so much of the bigger picture of the world that we kind of commentating or speaking about that pulls into what you're talking about. The dots for me are joining very quickly the more that you talk. Yeah, I think it's fascinating. Really.
I just want to say, in connection with what you've just said, when I was teaching at Esalen and doing my PhD, I had my head of the transpersonal psychology course that I was doing. He came and visited and took part in this 5-day retreat. And he came away saying, what you've got here, you've got about 15 to 20 different modalities in this one. You've got the cognitive